All right, so thank you again for joining us. My name is Emily Reese, and I am the career counselor here at Troy University. Today, we're going to have another special presentation by Mack Morris, and so he is a graduate student and intern with Education USA. And last time he talked to us about writing a CV for graduate school, and now we're going to continue on with that and talk more about writing a statement of purpose and how that looks in the application process. So Mac, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you. Real quick though, just to let everyone know, I am recording this, so we'll post it on our YouTube page, so you can look for that after this is done. And then we'll just ask that if you'll keep yourself muted throughout the presentation, and then you can always unmute if you have a question or type it in the chat box, and we'll be glad to get those answered. All right, Mac.
Okay. Okay, just a quick question. Can everyone see my screen, the presentation?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so yeah, thank you for the introduction. Like she said, my name is Mack Morris. I'm a graduate assistant here in the Center for National Programs. I'm also in the Student Affairs Counseling program. And I'm also a virtual intern with Education USA, which is a U.S. Department of State network that has advises international. It promotes, I guess, American higher education in foreign countries. So today I'm going to be presenting on how to prepare a statement of purpose for graduate school. Some of the topics I'm going to talk about is the personal statement, what it is, compared to the statement of purpose. These personal statement and statement of purpose sound very similar, but they're actually different in what they cover. Next, I'll be talking about the statement of purpose structure, how to structure it, what should you include in every paragraph. Formulating the statement of purpose, this is kind of like brainstorming how to come up and formulate ideas and content to put on the statement of purpose. Next, just some general advice when preparing your statement of purpose. And then we'll go over an example of a statement of purpose, and you can kind of see how these, what I presented on, how it actually looks like when it's written down in a statement of purpose. And lastly, just some helpful websites to use in the process. That will be very help the process. Okay, so to begin, the personal statement. So it is the personal statement. So it's going to be personal. It's not going to be information that you can find on the rest of your graduate school application, like your curriculum vitae. It's going to be personal focus. It's going to focus on personal interest, personal story, personality. So intangible skills, these soft skills, like this person is responsible, hardworking, things like this. And it's going to contain fit for school. A lot of times in personal statements, people tend to write about them overcoming an obstacle in their life and how what they learn from their challenge, how that translates to graduate school. So what skills they learn in the process, or how that taught them about like what they want to, what program they want to go into. Kevin Hintz, he is one of the contributors to wordvice.com, which I found really helpful, and even for me putting together these presentations. He said the personal statement is an insight into who you are, where you're from, where you want to go in your academic and future career. So this who you are, this is going to be kind of the specific examples that shaped you, made you want to pursue the program, and where you want to go in your academic and future career. This is going to be kind of where, means where you could connect those examples, program and career goals. Make sure the story you're telling, how does that translate to you being a successful graduate student, and showing why you're a good fit for the program. The personal statement's going to be shorter than the statement of purpose, so it's going to cover between 250 to 500 words. But you should always check the university requirements and see how much they ask for. Okay, so the statement of purpose, this is what I'm going to go into more detail today because this is what most graduate schools require. So it's a statement of purpose. The purpose is making sure, I guess, showing the committee that you have the academic professional background to be a successful graduate student in their program. So you're going to, in the statement of purpose, you're going to contain information you would find on your curriculum vitae, but it's going to be a little different because you're going to expand on these your education that you would find on the CV. For example, on your CV, you might have that you went to so-and-so school, but on the statement of purpose, you might go into maybe what classes you took and what did you get out of those classes, like what professors. So go into more detail. It's important to note that on the statement of purpose, it's better to be more specific about certain accomplishments that you have rather than to write about a whole bunch of accomplishments in your statement of purpose. So to go back to the presentation, it's going to be academic focus on academics you've done, educational history, specific achievements related to academic professional backgrounds. So let's say you volunteered, mentored students related to like your program. Academic professional goals, the admissions committee is going to they like to see, what is your long-term goal, and you can talk about how this program will contribute to you reaching these goals as well. Fit for school, that's kind of what I mentioned, talk about how why you chose this specific program compared to other programs. And in the example, we'll go into a little bit more detail what this looks like. Tangible skills, and what I mean by this is this not like your personality, like you're hardworking, good at multitasking. Those are things that the admissions committee should be able to just take away from reading your statement of purpose. Your statement of purpose, all the things you listed should imply those things. But when I mean tangible skills, I mean saying that you are good at certain like Microsoft Office or some type of programming that's related to your major. And like a little bit about personality, and this is going to be something that's kind of implied, where the personal statement focuses more on who you are. The statement of purpose is going to focus on more, I guess, who you are academically, professionally. Also, you want to make sure not to just list this information like you would see on a CV in bullet points. You want to make sure you make it a narrative. So using transitions, transitioning from one paragraph to the other, making everything flow. Because the admissions committee is also going to look at the way you write as well, not just what's on the statement of purpose. It's going to be more formal than the personal statement. And since you're covering all these details about your academic professional history, it's going to be longer than the personal statement. So between 500,000 words, but I put in quotation marks, check the university's requirements because every university is a little different. So make sure you adhere to their requirements. So how to structure your statement of purpose. You can structure it just like you would any other essay with an introduction, body, and conclusion. In the introduction, this is kind of where you want to demonstrate your passion for the field, so your interests, your motivations for going into that program, for completing that, going into that degree. Then you want to transition into your background in the field, which is going to be the body. The body is where you're really going to go into specifics and details about your academic classes you've taken. Make sure when you talk about these academic classes, you could not just list, I took very general, like I took engineering classes, but what specifically classes did you take? Who did you take them with? Specific professors you took them with, especially if they're well known in the field, or if they maybe have some connections to the university you're applying to. And then also make sure you write about maybe your learning outcomes. What did you take away from that those classes? Because then it's going to be easier to relate, what you took away from those classes to why you want to apply for that specific program. For example, if the program specializes or has professors that specialize in a certain area of study, kind of similar to the learning outcomes that you took away from the classes, you can relate those two things together. And then in the example, I'll show you what this looks like written out. So next, extracurricular activities in the field. So volunteering, mentoring, things like that. Publications or any other professional accomplishments in the field. Explanations about problems in your background. So this one, I would recommend talking to maybe one of your undergrad professors or someone in the field that you're, the field of the program you're applying for, that they're in, because I'm not exactly sure. You don't want to make your whole statement of purpose about, I guess, making excuses. So I would recommend, talking to them to make things, to just make sure that your statement of purpose isn't seen making too many excuses. So next, explanation why you have chosen this specific graduate school. In my opinion, this is the most important part. So make sure, do your research on the grad school. Mention one or two professors who work in that program that you appreciate their work. And if you talk about your learning outcomes, your insights from that class, you can relate that to those specific to those specific professors if they have similar research work that they're doing. Specific programs at the grad school which attract you, align with your academic professional interests. That's kind of what I mentioned. And how this program will help accomplish your academic goals and interests. Why this specific program would help you be a engineer, a doctor, more than another program would. And also how you can contribute to the program. A lot of applicants tend to write about, how the program can help them, make this money, or pursue their long-term goal. But what can you actually do to the program? That's why it's good to mention the specific professors in the program and how your interests align with theirs, and talk about how you would like to help them maybe do research, talk about something, how you can contribute to the program, how you can make them better. Lastly, conclusion. This is pretty much like the conclusion in any of your essays. So I'm just kind of reiterating what you have covered, your reason for applying, your interest, motivations, and so on. So formulating this statement of purpose. So you want to make sure to do your research on the university, program, and faculty. So you can, like I mentioned earlier, you can relate what you talk about to the specific program. It's going to make a very strong case for you to be accepted. So coming up with ideas to put on your statement of purpose, making sure you don't miss anything. So make sure to gather, transcripts, look at the classes you took, and think about if you have the syllabi from those classes. Look at the learning outcomes, what you did. You might want to talk about those aspects. Curriculum vitae, looking at what professional accomplishments have you completed. Major essays, is there an essay you wrote where you did some research and you found out I found out some really information that was very interesting for you, and you can talk about those things as well. Your senior thesis, same thing. If you did some research on some topics that are very interesting for you or that relate to that graduate program, make sure you talk about these as well. And just any relevant professional duties, just work experience, any other relevant academic and professional documents. And when you're looking through these documents, this information, ask yourself what are the strongest, most unique. I mentioned in my CV presentation, senior thesis is really strong. So if you put on your statement of purpose that you completed a senior thesis, this is what it was over, this is what you learned. That's a very strong case for you to be admitted to a graduate program, because a lot of students don't complete a thesis during undergrad. More questions ask if if it's most related. Obviously, you don't want to list something like a comprehensive English 1101 class that we have in Troy if you're applying for pre-med or something like along those lines. It's something you can expand on the most, so something you can really talk about and expand on, what you took away from those classes, and so on. And lastly, make sure that you expand on the information, focus on like learning outcomes, what you took away from the classes or the experience. So just some general advice, make sure that you're adhering to the prompt and directions. Usually the university on their website, they're going to have specific details about what they want you to cover in your statement of purpose, word limit, directions, how to submit it, all the information. So make sure you adhere to the prompt. This is going to reflect very poorly on you if you do not follow these directions, because what does that say about you as a future student professional? Use language specific to the program. If you were in my CV presentation, you saw where a person who was applying for a master's in arts, they used the word curated rather than organized. Curated, I've never heard it used really outside of the art community. So make sure you use language specific to the program. It kind of sounds like what what you're talking about. For example, I'm in the counseling program, so if I was applying for a PhD in counseling, in my statement of purpose, maybe I would use the words like prompt or probe rather than ask questions, getting the client to talk. And that's just some good advice for any type of writing, is make sure a lot of times you try to explain the concept, but a lot of the times there's just one word that is definition, it explains the concept. Another just good advice for any type of writing, make sure you vary your verbs throughout the statement of purpose. For example, just not keeping saying like putting like interest, I'm interested in, changing up what's a synonym for interested. Avoid cliches. A big cliche when writing your statement of purpose is people tend to use interest a lot. I'm passionate. Make sure you avoid those words as often as possible. I can't harp on this enough, but make sure you tailor that essay towards a specific program. So talking about professors in that program, what are their research interests? How does that align with your research interests? How can you help them? And why that program stands above the rest of the programs. Make a rough draft. This is really good because good writing is not done overnight. So make sure you make a rough draft, you revise it, have someone else proofread your essay. Specifically, someone maybe that's even your undergrad professor, someone that knows a little bit more about that field, like a professional. Because a lot of times, if I look over someone's statement of purpose, I'm not in engineering, or as we see in this example, economics. So there are a lot of concepts that I can't really, it's kind of hard for me to understand. So having a professional who knows what you're talking about, it might could help you with making sure, like putting on a better way to say that. Take your time, step away from your essay. in my program, we do a lot of writing. So sometimes you can get overwhelmed with how much you're looking at the same essay over and over again. So step away for it. I prefer, for example, if your statement of purpose is due on a Friday, make sure you get it done a little early so you can kind of step away, take a day off, go back, look over it. You might catch some things that you need to change. You can say better that you wouldn't have before because your brain's just fried from looking at the same statement of purpose. And also something I forgot to mention, when having someone else proofread your essay, a pair of fresh eyes will be very helpful because your brain will automatically make corrections for what you're writing because you know what you want to say, but it doesn't really matter that you know what you're trying to say. It matters if the reader knows. So it's just some more kind of advice that I've talked about. Make sure you're doing your research on the university, the program, faculty, and their requirements. And lastly, make an effort. A lot of graduate school or any type of school, or anything is making an effort. And that's something that you're going to be judged on when you prepare your statement of purpose. And this is going to show up in making simple grammatical mistakes. So make sure you avoid those. And this making an effort. Effort's one of those soft skills and tangible skills I was talking about that the admissions committee is going to be looking for when they read your statement of purpose. So here's the first slide of the example I'm going to cover. And this is kind of just the introduction and the start of the body. So as you see here in the introduction, I have it highlighted in bold. This person specifies, what program they're applying for, in what field, and what their long-term goals are. They're applying for Harvard. In economics in a pursuit of a career in academic research. So they're very specific. Next, they go into more about their interests and motivations. They say, I entered economics research because I enjoy modeling real-world situations with math. Just a side note, I highlighted and bolded I enjoy because that's something that you want to expand on more in your statement of purpose. Ask yourself, why do you enjoy something? It's not enough just to say I enjoy this, but because, why? And they expanded on this. They said this interest was confirmed by my research work, which included projects on mortgages, optimal surveys, and consumer savings. So they kind of expand on why they enjoy economics. Next, they specify, they go into specifically what about economics they enjoy, specific theories and designs. So it's not enough just to talk about, that you're interested in engineering or being a doctor, but be more specific, like what type of doctor, what type of engineer. Graduate school is a lot more specific and focused than your undergrad, so make sure you talk about these things. I guess in the next paragraph, they continued saying, I entered economics research because I enjoy the process of modeling social situations. They go into why they enjoy this process, the process of looking at the economic phenomenon, thinking about key empirical factors, making the correct variable structural choices to generate a trackable model that explains the situation. And this is why I recommend having someone who's in the field look over your statement of purpose to, I guess, revise it, because for someone who doesn't know much about economics, this can be quite difficult to understand. So when they talk about, what they enjoy, they give an example of when they did this. So, for example, one project I worked on for Professor John Johnson, like I mentioned earlier, they list the specific professor. involved finding a formula that gives the best time to refinance mortgages. They talked about the learning outcomes from this project. They enjoyed contemplating the various trade-offs, and they list these trade-offs, these questions that they had. So talking about what they took away from the project, these insights, and this is something you can talk about how you can you can do these things with the professors in the program. So how will you contribute to the program? So to continue, they talk about more projects that they did and what they took away from those projects. So they say, one insight they had was using a multi-dimensional envelope theorem. Another insight involved pushing a standard data method technique in statistics to infinite cases. So talking about what they took away from these projects. And they continue talking about other math insights they had. And then they go more into detail. For example, in so-and-so theories, they studied this, and this is something where you can talk about in your classes. You studied this, you completed these projects, this is what you took away, and so on. So in this paragraph, it's quite big, but at the beginning, they talk about how behavioral economics is appealing. They do a good job with saying it's not just appealing in ending the sentence, but because of what it does. So being very specific. And they go through here listing citing a lot of references, talking about how their work is interesting or is appealing, has helped them formulate insights, ideas of their own. And then they end the paragraph, talking about, what they took away. What do they think about all this information? This model explains reinforcement, over prediction, and zero-sum games. If such a theory is confirmed through experience, it would advance the goal of having more general models for behavioral economics. So they talk about, what they think about the what they wrote, what the other people researched, and then they say, thus interested in having the opportunity to work with so-and-so professor at the program who studies, the same thing maybe, to confirm such a theory. So talking about how they can contribute to the program as well. So they also talk about here, how they have how these experiences gave them the skills needed for graduate school. So they talk about, to build a technical toolbox, what classes they've taken, and what they've learned from those classes, the research they've done with certain professors, and what they did in these research and how it's just going to help them in overall their graduate experience. They end by saying, just kind of reiterating that they are fascinated with economics. They very much enjoy the research, work in specific fields with specific theories, game theory, mechanism design, and behavioral economics, and like to work with, a certain professor at the school to study, research these fields. And lastly, they're being very specific, not just saying that they want to study in graduate school, but what specific program. So here are some helpful websites that I listed. The one that I recommend the most would be wordvice.com, how to write a statement of purpose for graduate school. All you have to do is simply Google this and it'll come up. They'll have lots of videos, not just about writing the statement of purpose for graduate school, but your CV, recommendation letters, every aspect of what they should contain, what the school's looking for. Prep Scholar, if you just simply search it, you'll find some great examples of statements of purpose. And a lot of universities, such as like Northeastern University, have resources on how to prepare, a statement of purpose, CV, and so on. And something San Jose State University, writing a winning statement of purpose, they go a lot into avoiding those cliches. And when you say like I enjoy something, talking about make sure you put in a statement of purpose of why you enjoy it. Being very specific in your statement of purpose. So like I mentioned, my name's Mack Morris. This is my email here that you can feel free to send me an email if you want any more information about your applying for graduate school or writing your statement of purpose. And I also put my LinkedIn on here. That's the best social media platform to contact me by. But with that said, that is it for my presentation, and feel free to ask me any questions, email me, or you can ask them on here. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mack. That was very helpful and informative, I hope, to all the students and those that will watch the video later as well. I think you definitely highlighted a few key things that we're always talking about here in the Office of Career Services. One, make sure you're making, anytime you're writing something, whether it's a cover letter, a CV, a personal statement, a statement of purpose, making that really tailored towards the school or the job or whatever you're applying for, and then double checking your words and having somebody that's a professional or a professor review over that just to double check your grammar and give you any type of feedback. So very good tips. Does anybody have any questions for Mack or for us? Right, I'm not seeing anybody unmute or any questions come through, but you have Mack's contact information, and you can always contact us in the Career Services office at troyucareer@troy.edu, and we'll be glad to pass along any questions that you have and get those answered for you. So again, thank you so much, Mack, for giving us this presentation today, and thank you everyone for attending. Hope you have a great day.